ज़हे मुक़द्दर हुज़ूरे हक़ से सलाम आया पयाम आया।
ألم تروا كيف خلق الله سبع سماوات طباقا وجعل القمر فيهن نورا وجعل الشمس سراجا.
In the field of biology, the Holy Quran says in Surah Al-Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 30, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. We have created every living thing from water. Will you not then believe? Imagine, in the deserts of Arabia, where there was scarcity of water, the Quran says everything was created from water. Who would have believed in it? Anything else the Quran would have said, people could have believed. Water, where there was scarcity, the Quran says 1400 years ago, every living thing is created from water. Today we have come to know that cytoplasm, which is the basic substance of the living cell, contains 80% water. Every living creature contains 50 to 70% water. And without water, the living creature cannot survive. It's a must. Quran asks you, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. We have created from water every living thing. Will you not then believe? Allah is saying that everything is created from water, which you came to know today. Quran mentions that 1400 years ago. Will you not then believe? It's asking you a question. It wants a reply. The Quran says in Surah Nur, chapter number 24, verse number 45, that we have created every living animal from water. The Quran says in Surah Furqan, chapter 25, verse number 54, we have created the man from water. Imagine, 1400 years ago, the Quran mentions this. In the field of botany, we have come to know recently that even the plants have got sexes, male and female. Previously, we did not know that. Even the unisexual plant has got distinct characteristic of male and female. The Quran says in Surah Taha, chapter number 20, verse number 53, it is Allah who sends down water from the sky and causes diverse pairs of plants to grow, each separate from the other. That means the plants have got sexes, male and female. The Quran says in Surah Ra'd, chapter number 13, verse number 3, we have created every kind of fruit in pairs, 2 and 2. Even the fruits have got sexes, male and female. In the field of zoology, the Holy Quran says in Surah An'am, chapter number 6, verse number 38, that we have created every living animal that lives on the earth and every bird that flies on the wings in the air to live in communities like you. Today, science has discovered that even the animals and birds live in community like the human beings. The Quran describes the flight of the bird in Surah Nahl, chapter 16, verse number 79. That do you not look at the bird subjected in the midst in the air? None of them can hold them up except with the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran repeats in Surah Mulk, chapter 67, verse number 19. Do you not observe the birds above you? They spread their wings and they fold it. None can hold them up except with the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He watches over all things. There is a very striking resemblance with what modern science has discovered today, that the birds have got a certain migratory programming in the nervous system. That's the reason that young birds, without any prior experience, can take flights of thousands of miles without a guide. And they come back to the departure point also. And a very good example is given by Professor Hamburger in his book, Power and Fragility of the Mutton Bird. The mutton bird lives in the Pacific. It has a journey of more than 15,000 miles, and it takes about 6 months. And it comes back to the departure point in a delay of not more than 1 week. How is it possible? The scientists say there has to be a certain programming of these birds. Who is programming them? But natural, as the Holy Quran says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala holds them up. The Arabic word, amsaka, meaning to seize or to hold. The Quran says in Surah Nahl, chapter 16, verse number 68 and 69, that it is the Lord who has taught the bees to build cells in hills, in trees, and human habitations, and to eat of what the earth produces, and to find the spacious path of the Lord with great skill. What does the Quran mean by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught the bee to find the spacious path of the Lord? Von Frisch, who is a scientist, he got the Nobel Prize in 1973 when he described the behavior of the animals, especially the communication method of the bee. And today we have come to know that whenever a worker bee finds a new flower or a new garden from where it can take nectar, it goes and tells its fellow bees the exact direction and map of that new flower or garden. It's called as the bee dance. Only today we have come to know by high photographic methods how is this communication given. The gender used in the Holy Quran in these verses of Surah Nahl, chapter 16, verse 68 and 69, is a female gender, kulli or fasluki, which means a female bee. Previously we thought it was the male bee which was the worker bee. No wonder Shakespeare in his play Henry IV, he writes that the soldier bee, the male bee, goes and reports to the king. Today we have come to know it is not the king which they report to, it's the queen. And the worker bee is not the male bee, it's a female bee. Imagine, Quran speaks about the gender of the worker bee 1400 years ago, which we have discovered today. The Holy Quran says in Surah Ankabut, chapter 29, verse number 41, that as to those who take for protectors anyone besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they build for themselves houses like that of the spider. And verily, the house of the spider is fragile. It is delicate. Besides the Quran saying that anyone who takes for protectors anyone besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the physical nature of their house will be like that of the spider, fragile, delicate, flimsy. It also gives a reference to the family life, which we have come to know today, that many a times the female spider kills the male spider. The Quran says in Surah Namal, chapter 27, verse number 17 and 18, that before Solomon marched the hosts of jinns, men, and birds, and when they reached a lowly valley of ants, one of the ants said, "Get ye into your habitations, lest Solomon and his hosts unknowingly will trample you beneath the feet." People will think, what kind of a fairy tale book is the Holy Quran? This book, the Holy Quran, it's speaking about ants. Ants talking among themselves. It's a fairy tale book. Today we have come to know that any animal or any insect which has the closest resemblance to that of the human being, it is the ant. The ant bury the dead the same way as the human beings do. They have a sophisticated method and division of labor where they have manager, supervisor, workers, etc. They very often meet to chat. They have a sophisticated method of communication. They have marketplaces where they exchange goods. And when they store the grain in winter, and if the grain begins to bud, the ant cut the bud as though they knew that budding will cause rotting of the grain. And in monsoon, if the grain gets wet, they bring it out in the sunlight to dry. Surely you might have seen the ants carrying grains in the sunlight to dry, as though they knew that humidity will cause the development of root system, which will cause rotting of the grain. So Quran speaks about the advanced nature of the ants 1400 years ago.